So I go ahead and write this book. At the same time, I'm revising this book. You talk about going into cognitive dissonance, to go jump back into Mormonism where you haven't really thought about it that much for like 15 years. It was very emotionally taxing. In fact, well, never mind. But anyway, at the time I finished it, I send the proposal and everything that I tell you to do, how to do this, you know, I did it myself. I didn't cut any corners. I wrote a proposal just exactly like what you got there on the sheet, how to do it. And I sent it to my agent, and I finished this novel, and she called it the most ignored project she had ever represented. She said she took it to book conventions for 3 years, telling editors, this is a really cool book that I have that I'd like to offer you. And everybody said, yeah, we'll read it, but nobody ever did. Well, I became very, very discouraged and frustrated because I had spent 5 years of my life doing these 2 books on a subject that was painful to me with absolutely no return, right? I had a friend that prayed, that he said, I'm going to pray that God will give you a result by October 31st. Well, the summer rocked on. I mean, this was in the spring. I call my agent. Nobody's called about Latter-day Cipher. I'm still working on the Mormon Mirage, getting the proposal ready, and I get it to her. And on October 31st, and as God is my witness, this is the truth, on October 31st at 4 o'clock, she called me and said, guess what, Latane? The very first editor who's read Latter-day Cipher loves it, and he's going to publish it, and he's Moody Publisher. Well, yay! I didn't even think about the October 31st part. She calls me back an hour and a half later at 5:30 and said, you know Stan Gundry, the senior editor that's been at Zondervan for 40 years? She says, I've known him for 40 years, worked under him and with him. I've never before known him to call and ask for a project. But he called me just a few minutes ago and said, you know that Latane Scott, she's your client, isn't she? You think she'd be willing to rewrite the Mormon Mirage? And she said, I have the proposal on my table. That all happened between 4 and 5:30 on October 31st. Now, is that the way to get published? Not without divine help. Thank you very much. Questions? We have questions. 9 minutes for questions.
Well, you can stay as long as you want.
Okay.
This is the last session. Just a reminder that social hour is 6:30 and dinner right at 7:30. And they like to serve
Questions? Yes.
Who did you say the writer was that you were talking to when you were 25?
Joyce Landorf was her name. And I think she's, well, she had a very serious accident and was in a coma for a long time. I think she's probably gone on by now. Any other questions? Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. I've been employing the screenplay format for the last year, and I've learned it has a particular structure in the story structure. It's fairly strict. Mm-hmm. Is there a similar structure in novel writing?
No, there's not, because novels are of so many genres, and the Snowflake method will give you one. Another method is called the hero's journey, and you can look that up. No, there is no particular structure. I read the book, the novel plan for novel writing, the Marshall Plan for novel writing, to learn how to plot a suspense novel. And this is the genre of this book is literary suspense. That's what it's called. You're welcome. Yes.
FSM, Flying Spaghetti Monster?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you repeat the one that you just said, the book that you...
Oh, yes. It's on your sheet there.
Oh, okay.
It's on your sheet. The novel plan, no, the Marshall Plan for novel writing. For writing the novel or something like that. You've got the sheet. And it's got a workbook. You tear the pages out. You decide what length of book you want. You want 100,000 words? You want 75,000 words? Those are pretty standard. 50,000, any of those for the length of a novel. And you decide on the basis of how many pages it is, how many points of view you have, if your protagonist has a collaborator or a confidant. And it shows you how to mount the tension so that it is satisfying to the reader. It keeps you turning the page.
How much of yourself is in novels when you write? I mean,
I'm not
I've
answering
done a
that.
lot of writing.
let's put it this way. A friend of ours invited us over for dinner after finishing this book and said, when I rang the doorbell and she opened the door and she said, "Hello, Solana." I said, "I'm busted." Yes.
You described writing the notes on 3x5 cards and numbering them by the source, and then you deal them out.
Mm-hmm.
How do you determine how to deal them? I got lost right there.
According to subject matter. I'm sorry, I should have said that. Because the source is on there, you don't have to worry about it being disconnected from where you got the information, for instance, in a nonfiction book. But as you begin dealing these things into piles, you see that your book is gaining its structure right there. You realize your book is about this, and this, and this, and this. So everything that's about that you deal with together unless there's a reason not to do that. Now, I did that with this talk. I actually took these cards and spread them all over bed. I didn't do it on the hotel floor because I don't know about hotel floors. But, and I spread them out and I said, well, this is here and this is here. And I did part of it at home. Then as I listened to the speakers today, I realized there were other things that I wanted to make sure that you all knew because I didn't know what this audience was going to be like, when I came. And as I've talked to you, some of you, and listened to the other speakers, I modified what I was going to say. Yes?
So did you become a born-again Christian?
Yes, I did. But it was not an automatic thing.
How much time?
Well, it depends on whether or not you count when I was baptized or when I learned to trust God again.
Okay.
Baptized fairly soon, learned to trust God 10 years.
You say that you need to add something new
Mm-hmm.
to a subject field in order to publish. You can't just regurgitate what someone else has done. So how do you go about educating yourself about what's already been written? Are you doing Google searches to make sure that what you're about to write hasn't already been written?
You mean for the purposes of gaining an agent or an editor? Is that what you're saying, or just starting out in the writing process?
Or writing it, really, I think.
Write for yourself first.
Yeah.
Write for yourself first. Find out what you want to say first. And that is the uniqueness, is what you bring to it. Because as I said, nobody's experience is normative. All of us came, even though we have in common, I would assume, all of us in this room, that we were once Mormons and we're not now. I bet we don't have much more in common other than our geography at this moment. We're very, very different. And so your individuality is your first thing, and that's the thing that you should pursue. Why you think what you think, why you came to your conclusions, and why that's important for someone else to know.
Certainly for memoir, but if you're doing a nonfiction, for example,
Like with the Mormon Mirage, are you talking about a book or a magazine article?
a book, if you wanted to pursue a certain field.
You either have to say what's already been said in a new way, or an updated way, or a more valuable way, or a more insightful way. Or you have to say something new that someone has not yet said, which might be your own story, for instance. If nobody's ever told your story, then that's something new. Did I answer your question?
So just to find out what has been written.
Oh, go to a bookstore and then go on Amazon and see what's available. And of course, we didn't have the ability to go on Amazon, but that's what I would do. Is maybe Google a phrase or like ex-Mormon, for instance, and just do some research. Now this takes time. Be prepared to wade through a lot of stuff if you really want to get a comprehensive list or a comprehensive look. It's important to do if you really want to market something. You can say to a publisher, I have examined these things, and here are things that are similar to what I'm writing. This is also in the resources I have on your sheet. Please go look up all those things, because in marketing to an agent or to an editor, they will ask you what is similar to this and what is your competition. And you have to be prepared to have given them that in your proposal. They don't come back and ask you that. You have to have it ahead of time. So please believe me, you've got a wealth of information on that one sheet about how to proceed.